Today we have a special guest with us. His name is Mufti Ibn Muneer, and he's a native from Philadelphia. He also goes by the name of Mufti, a name that was given to him for his diligence and the way that he conducted himself at such a young age. This brother, alhamdulillah, he's a native of Philadelphia, and he studied in Yemen. That's where he first, besides gathering as much information and seeking knowledge in his community, which is from the religion of Islam, is getting knowledge from the closest people around you and benefiting from them first. After going through that, he decided to go abroad and study in Yemen for a long period of time. After so many years, he was accepted into the University of Medina in Saudi Arabia, where he got his master's in the studies of hadith. While he was studying, he sat under numerous mashaykh. And one of the mashaykh that I've known, that I've studied and went to some of his classes was Shaykh Muslim out of that. And the Prophet's Masjid. He's one of the teachers in the Prophet's Masjid in Medina as well. And throughout that, he was able to study outside of his studies of school to benefit from a lot of other mashaykh besides that. After he graduated in the science of hadith, within this specific science, which is hadith, and is a very hard science and a study to go through. And he not only did he graduate with very good grades, he went on to get his master's, and which is very difficult. Afterwards, he returned back to his hometown, and he benefited his community and a lot of people across America. He also has a hadith platform or a social media platform, Hadith Disciple, that he gives a lot of benefits for everyone around the world. And this is somebody that's dear to me and close to a lot of us. And we want to also thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for allowing this brother with such a busy schedule to benefit all of us and for us. And thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be in this gathering. Without further ado, there's much more we can say about the brother, much more I can say about him personally, and in regards to helping me along and a lot of us along in learning our religion. So without further ado, we want to turn over the tables to the brother, inshallah ta'ala.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Sallallahu sallam wa baraka ala abdihi wa rasulihi nabiyyina wa imamina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Amma ba'd. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thanks a lot, Abu Salih, for the introduction. As the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam told the greatest of this nation after himself, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu, concerning a dream that he had interpreted and things that he told the other Sahaba about. He said, "Asabta ba'dahu wa akhta'ta ba'dahu." He said, some parts of it you got right, and other parts of it you got wrong. Jazakallah khairan. And Abu Salih, Allah knows we go back, way back. We go way back, alhamdulillah, in the early days. of my development, my cultivation, my evolution. There's no doubt about that. We've been through a lot of stuff over the years, decades. And I have no shyness or no embarrassment in outwardly saying that he was instrumental in many, many, many key turning points and my studies and my travels, and as I said, my evolution. That's a fact. Need I bring up examples? The barbershop, Taqi, we're talking way back now, okay? The early days, alhamdulillah, before I was in high school. So may Allah bless you, may Allah reward you well. Of course, how I met Brother Tariq, him coming to ask the hand of marriage of my eldest sister, Saleh. May Allah bless her in this world and in the next. And may Allah bless the rest of my sisters and give them more knowledge, more guidance, and more success in this world and the next. I mean, over the years, many brothers have asked me to tell them my story, how to get started in the car. Shaykh, you're asking me about my late father, and Allah have mercy on him and forgive him of his sins. Be pleased with him. When did you start studying Arabic? How did you start studying Arabic? Where did you go first? Did you go to Medina first? Or did you go to Yemen first? Etc., etc., etc. Who were your first teachers? When did you start teaching yourself? Etc., etc. I'll mention the story. But I think it's a very important part of the story that I haven't mentioned enough. And I haven't given enough respect to and attention to. And that is the part of the story of my eldest sister. And how instrumental and influential she was. And my guidance, by Allah's permission, my direction, my cultivation, and my evolution, etc. And from that, it's a very brief story. It's a story that I'll never ever forget. I remember it like it was yesterday. One time we were at home in West Philly at our mother's house, our home which we grew up, which we raised. And as I was getting a little older, I started venturing out a little more in the neighborhood. I would say that it was, I think it's fair to say that when I was younger, I was relatively sheltered. Relatively. Not fully sheltered 100%, but to an extent. I was the youngest child. I didn't have any older brothers. My mother and father, they were separated. And I do not say, as many people say, that I didn't know my father. And I had no relationship with my father. That's not true. I did know my father. I did have a relationship with him. And there lies no doubt, he was very instrumental. And many of the things that I'm doing to this very day as I speak. So may Allah reward him and accept him and reward him for that. And that reminds me of, I remember a couple months ago, it was the Super Bowl, right? And of course we know who was playing in the Super Bowl. It was the Eagles versus the Chiefs. Okay? And the professional sports, shout out to Khaled and Co. Hating on Philly teams is a sunnah. Is this not the case? Hating on Philly teams is like an art. The Eagles is trash, the Sixers is the Phillies, that's how it is. So, the brothers from New York in different parts, they're like, oh, the Eagles in the Super Bowl. Like, yeah, not the Giants, not the Jets. It's not about Jahili, but we just spit it facts. So I remember it was they did an interview, and they were talking about the two teams meeting up. And I remember it was one anchor or journalist, whatever you want to call him. He was on the panel with other people speaking about the teams and the quarterbacks. And how good the quarterbacks were and how talented they were. Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, blah, 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 lighting up the scoreboard. And they were talking about this and they were talking about that. But this one journalist, he said, I want to talk about something different. And that is, we want to go against the stereotype. And we're going to go against the narrative and the negative stigma that young black males are talented and they're successful only because of their mothers. And they never knew their fathers. And they never had any connection with their fathers. Their fathers had abandoned them, so on and so forth. He said that's not true. He says if you look at both of these quarterbacks, you can see that their fathers were instrumental in their elementary, middle, high school education, sports, scholarships, college to the NFL. And of course, the other people on the panel, they didn't reject that message, but they were shocked. Like, we didn't know you were going to bring that up. And he's like, yeah, we want to bring that up because it's not brought up enough. And of course, many of us, as a reality, unfortunately, the reality, oftentimes we do come from broken homes. And we do come from single parent homes. And we do come from homes in which the mother is forced to be the father and the mother. The mother is forced to cook, clean, wash, read bedtime stories, work, pay bills, and handle stuff outside of the house. But not every single time. And that's a lie, and that's a myth that young black males are always cut off from their fathers. That's a lie. That's not true. And it's also a myth and a lie that many black males don't care about their sons and their daughters. That's a greater lie. And to open up a can of worms, or to be the bad guy, sometimes this lie is propagated by the mothers themselves. And they don't even realize. And that's a whole other game of chess, when you don't realize that your enemy is using you for him. And the enemy gets you to speak on his behalf with your own tongue. But that's a different discussion. Your father doesn't love you and your father doesn't care about you. Sometimes that's true, unfortunately. We don't shun from the truth. But that's not true every single time. And there's countless examples of fathers, even with divorce, even with incarceration, even with problems with the mother, even with this issue, with that issue, they still have a love for their children. And they still show some time, some attention with their children, spend quality time with their children. That's a fact. So back to the story with regards to me and my older sister. When I was younger, my mother and father, they were separated. So no matter how much my father loved me or he was concerned, he was not in the house with us every single day. For obvious reasons. I didn't live with him. He came to see us, visit us, pick us up, so on and so forth. So there was a lot of time when I was growing up when I was by myself. I didn't have any older brothers. I was the only boy, and I was the youngest. And my mother, and I've told this part of the story before, she said, I made dua for you, my first child.
From the etiquettes of the student of knowledge and the reality of the pseudo scholar in studies by Shaykh Dr. Saleh bin Fawzan bin Abdullahi al-Fawzan. Now on Amazon, paperback and hardback.
فاسألوا أهل الذكر أي العلماء إن كنتم لا تعلمون. هذا فيه أن الجاهل يسأل أهل العلم.
So, oftentimes I was in the house by myself. My mother's first child being born was a boy, but he died. She was heartbroken. She wanted a boy. She made dua, and alhamdulillah, Allah blessed her with 3 beautiful girl children. But she kept the dream alive. She wanted a Muhammad. When she had conceived me, she said, I knew from Allah that Allah had answered my dua. So my mother cherished me. And oftentimes she would shelter me to an extent. Don't go too far outside. It's dangerous outside. There are people outside, non-Muslim, and even some Muslims, who don't share the same values that you have. There's a lot of darkness out there. I don't want you caught up in that darkness and that filth. Stay close. But obviously, human nature, as you grow older, you think you grow stronger and smarter, you start venturing out more by yourself. So as I was getting older, I wasn't a full-blown, like 16, 17, 15 teenager yet, but I was, in the early stages, 10, 11, 12, 13. And I met some of the people in the neighborhood. Some of them were Muslim, and some of them were non-Muslim. There were 3 of them specifically. 2 of these were Muslim, 1 was a non-Muslim. I won't mention their names now, and I've told this story before, but not this part of the story. So as we started hanging out, I could clearly see that their background and my background was a little different with regards to household structure. But we was cool. But they were more advanced than I was with regards to the streets. And the ups and the downs and the ins and outs of the streets. So I was their student. So they started teaching me about certain things. Check this out, look at this, blah, 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 blah. So one day they made me an offer. They offered me something. They said, you want to come do this? I'm like, yeah, why not? They said, all right, cool. We're going to let you know when we're ready for you to do it. So I was in the house one day, sitting on the sofa. They came to the house, yo, Muhammad, you gonna come outside? We're ready for you. Come on, let's go. I said, all right, I'll be outside in a second. I had to figure out a way to get outside of the house. My mother and my older sister. So I'm about to leave. And my older sister, she says, where you going, Muhammad? And me, being young, naive, inexperienced, dumb, stupid, innocent, and pure, still upon the fitra. Still upon the fitra, but straying from that a little bit. I told her, I said, I'm going outside with such and such and such and such. She said, what do you want to do with that? I said, we want to sell drugs. Just like that. Didn't hide it, didn't lie. No, just like, yeah, I'm going to sell drugs. Just like that, literally. She said, what? She said, yeah, they offer me, they want to put me out. And when I was growing up, no doubt about it, drug dealers, no matter what they said in school, no matter how many commercials they had, these are your brains on drugs, t-shirts and hats, dare not to do drugs, drug dealers were idolized. That's a fact. And the street life was idolized and romanticized. That's a fact. Whether it's through music, whether it's through movies, whether it's through older siblings, other people, hustling they call it. If you hustle, you was getting money, you look the best. Your sneakers, your shoes, your haircut was always the freshest, the sharpest. Polo, Tommy Hill, whatever. Am I making this up somewhere? The cars that you drove, you had the rims back in the day. You was hustling, you was getting money. Everybody put you on a pedestal. The best looking girls in the neighborhood, etc., etc., etc. Love, respect, fear. When you was getting money. So it's only natural for you to idolize people that are selling drugs in that lifestyle. So me, being stupid and innocent, I told her, I said, I'm going to play basketball, we're going to the arcade. I didn't know how to lie then. I said, I'm going to sell drugs. She said, what? Like, are you crazy? Are you stupid? What you mean you want to sell drugs? I said, such and such and such and such. They told me, she said, you ain't going nowhere. And I was mad at her. I was angry at her. And I don't know if she remembers this story. She probably forgot. I had an attitude problem like, come on, man, you treat me like a baby. I want to go outside and sell drugs with such and such and such and such. So, let's fast forward to now, today. Medina, Yemen, hadith disciple, blah, 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 right? Let's fast forward all the way to now. Me being a lover of history, I love to study history. It's always been my favorite subject in school. And one of the elements of studying history is what if. You can't be a student of history unless you delve and dig into what if. What if they did lose this war? What if they did conquer this country? What if they didn't go over there on the boat? What if they didn't travel here? What if, right? And people, they make their different hypotheses. This wouldn't have happened if this conqueror didn't reach that continent. If this language, if this wasn't exposed, etc., etc. Football, right? Boxing, basketball. Imagine if they were won. That was a bad call, no doubt. The pass was overthrown. The receiver had no chance of catching it. The guy put his hands on his hip, he gave him a hug, a love tap, and the referee at the last minute threw the yellow flag. Anybody watching sports knows that was a terrible call. And the people who saw the game, it wasn't about Kansas City or Philly winning, but they said it was a good Super Bowl. We wanted to see them slug it out to the last second, and the game was won by them running down the clock and kicking the field goal. Disgrace. But what if they didn't run? Throw that flag. What if they didn't make that penalty? People always get caught up in the what if world. And we as Muslims, we shouldn't get stuck in the what if world. But sometimes we have to ponder and reflect on hindsight. So, what if I did lie to her? And I told her I was going to play basketball. But what if she wasn't there that day? She was out with her older friends, and I was by myself, and my mother was doing something, and I snuck out. What if I did start selling drugs? What if I did get a taste of the quick money? and the brand new sneakers and the girls and the beepers. This was before, phones. Remember beepers, pagers? Oh, that's too old. None of you guys can relate to that. Am I making something beepers, huh? Yeah. Right? Yeah. You had what was that dude back then? Alright? It wasn't, people that wear tight clothes, tight jeans. You had that loose. Where I came from, at least, it was polo guess. Tommy Hill polo guess. That's all you wore. Right? So what if I did go out and start selling drugs? And what if, just imagine, and I'm not praising myself, I'm just, imagine if I was showing the same zeal and passion and dedication and obsession with knowledge and hadith in Medina and Yemen to drugs and the street life. Just imagine, where would I be right now? Shaykh Tamir. In most cases, if I was dedicated, you say in jail. It's okay, is it? Someone who's dedicated to that life. As the poet said, he said, when for this, flipping coke was their career. Wasn't a hobby, that was a lifetime, in and out of it. Where would I be? Would I be sitting here right now, Shaykh Sultan? In most cases, wouldn't be sitting here. In most cases. If I had the opportunity to come out of jail, years of my life taken away from me, living in that environment, subhuman treatment of people, if I'm not wounded and scarred, missing this hip, in a wheelchair, if I'm still alive, right? Maybe, just maybe, I would have the opportunity to speak about some of my experiences to youth. But in most cases, I'd be dead. Shot 10 times, 5 times, in the face, in the neck, close range, by my best friend, by my so-called partner, by my supplier, by my lady companion or friend. And this goes on and on. I wouldn't be here talking about knowledge and hadith. There wouldn't be no hadith disciples. So what's important, this is food for thought. And I don't think I've shared this story before. I've talked about my father, I've talked about this one, I've talked about that one, I've talked about this one. How I got started, but I've never shared this story before. How I could have been caught up just like that. It's literally that simple. If you don't have the proper guidance, the proper role models, and a very important part of the story is even if your father is in your life, if your parents aren't vigilant, watching you, paying attention carefully, you can still get caught up. Just because you come from a good family, you have good values, doesn't mean that the shaitan is not after you. He can still get you. So that's a lesson for parents. Is that you have to keep a close eye on your children. You have to be involved in their lives and never assume and think, not my son, not my daughter. My daughter is pure and clean and innocent. Your daughter she's only 17, 16, and she slept with double-digit men. Double digits. She's not even 17 yet. But you think, not my daughter. Of course not. I taught her better than that. I raised her better than that. She didn't come from that, okay? On a block, they know by a different name. So you never assume that the shaitan is not going to attack your kids. You never assume that your children are bigger and better than that and above that. And as we know, he who thinks lightly of his enemy will soon become his enemy's captive. You underestimate your enemy is going to have you very soon. So that's food for thought. It's just that simple. Alright? So thank you very much, Sakina, Jazakallah khairan. I appreciate it. I may not express or say it enough, but I honestly do. And may Allah forgive you all your sins. Ameen. Alhamdulillah, she supplied us today with some real good stuff. Some tea, some fruit. And this is one of my favorite companies, Harney and Sons. They make fine tea, both loose leaf and bag. Vanilla Camoro. MashaAllah. Right. So let's get down to business, inshallah.
From the etiquette of the student of knowledge and the reality of the pseudo scholar and studies by Shaykh Dr. Saleh bin Fawzan bin Abdullahi al-Fawzan. Now on Amazon, paperback and hardback.
Ready, yes, we need to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah azza wa jalla agna anna. Allah azza wa jalla independent from us. Wa nahnu fuqara ila Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.